Matt Rogers, Jason Matthews, and our great mate Scotty Sattler popping into the studio tonight. Boys, welcome. Matty, first of all, welcome to Sports Day.
Oh, mate, I'm speechless to see my mate sitting beside me.
Sats, you rang me this morning and I was blown away when you said, "Hey, Jace, what do you think? Should I come in, have a chat?" And I said, "Mate, it's up to you." And it takes a lot of courage for you to come in and given the state you're in and your family and the pain you must be going through after losing your dad yesterday, mate. It's only what, just been over 24 hours. Yeah, mate, I'm surprised to see you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And I listened to the show this morning, actually, so thanks for your tribute. Yes, that was outstanding. Sorry if I keep breaking down.
Hey, you're right, mate. You're right.
Keep taking deep breaths. But I just felt as though that I want to start celebrating him.
Yep.
Yeah, for so long now, so many people would see me in the street and say, "How's Dad going?" And you got to try and explain, "Oh, he's not that great. You know, he's battling dementia." And when it happened yesterday, obviously there's that real grieving process which we'll go through for a while at the moment. But I just want to start celebrating how good of a guy he was.
Yeah.
You know, everyone talks about his rugby league career, and growing up as a kid, I looked at him as a fan, as we do, Rat, don't you?
Absolutely.
You go to these events and you see your dad getting stopped by everyone.
Yeah.
And my dad and Rat, your dad was in pubs as well, so very special people are publicans back in the day, and it means they're great with people and they give their time. Sometimes their greatest strength is also their greatest weakness, which means they give all their time to everyone else except their family.
The wrong people. So
Yeah.
they go, what about me?
So, yeah, I used to love watching him just give everyone his time. And so, I want to start talking about – everyone knows how great of a rugby league player he was, how great of a leader he was. My greatest memories of how he tried to shape me as a young man, watching the way that he just was with people. And I always use this quote that, they said, "What was it like growing up in pubs with your dad?" And I said, he taught me to talk to the bricklayer and the barrister.
Yep.
In the one conversation. So, guys, I'm still going to do a lot of grieving. I've never cried so much in my life, but I just want to start talking about him as a guy.
Yeah, mate. And our dads, I'll put money on it that your old man could be talking to someone, and you could go up to him and go, you'd be like he'd known him for years. When you meet him 5 minutes ago,
yeah,
and that's what they were like back in the day.
Garrick Morgan, who through rugby, Ratton, who I knew him through our fathers who played against each other, and I got to play with Garrick at the Crushers, and we've remained very good friends. And he texted me today, "Sorry to hear about, condolences to your family. What I loved about your father is he made you feel like the most special person in the room."
Wow.
Bob McCarthy used to always say, he looks like a choir boy, but he played like the devil.
Yeah.
And he said, I've seen so many times, Sats, that I've been on the field with him.
The perfect teammate, really.
I heard you say that yesterday. I looked at him the way that he was with his teammates, and I could understand why Clive made him captain in '67 and why it was such a big gamble, but he was one of the only people that saw something in him. But Bob McCarthy used to always say, he looks like a choir boy, plays like the devil. He said, because I'd see him on a Sunday afternoon at Redfern try and maim people who were trying to stand over his teammates. And he said, and within half an hour after the game finishing, we'd walk out the front of Redfern Oval and he'd be helping some old lady across Chalmers Street to the Leagues Club. And he said it was just, just such a contrast to the guy that you saw on the field who, he's famous for, everyone says he broke his jaw in the grand final. He actually smashed it in 3 places, and he's famous for that. But he was a tremendous rugby league player outside of that, a great team man. But just one of the real good guys. And so many people have texted me today and have said, I used to go and see him at the pub at the Stratty Hotel that he had, or the Queen's Hotel, or the Cecil, the Pacific, or the Runcorn, the Lawton, the Redcliffe Hotel. All these pubs that we ran over the years, and we lived in those pubs as well. And so many people have reached out and just sort of said, he just made me feel so special when I came into the pub. He always knew what I drank, and he treated me like I was the most important person in the world.
Sats, we've had a lot of people reach out to us over the last 24 hours and have wanted us to pass on, their condolences to you. And I told you about a couple today on the phone. But we had people last night texting us, and even though they copped a wallop from your old man in the pub, particularly running nude.
Through a beer garden.
But, he'd go, come on, put your clothes back on and just sit over there and shut up. Like everyone said he did it with affection. And everyone's got a John Sattler story.
Yeah, he did. He touched a lot of people emotionally because he wanted to help people. He just always wanted to help people.
He cared.
He did, yeah. And as we just said, Matty, our fathers, their greatest strength is also their greatest weakness. Yeah. And as sons, we know their weaknesses.
Yeah.
From the outside, people see this great person, which they are. But then as a child, sometimes you're craving their attention, but they're so hell bent on trying to help everyone else because they know that they're there to secure and protect their family.
How did you go with that, Sats, as a young boy coming up? And John Sattler is just known by everyone as like the toughest human to lace on a footy boot. And so how did you go with it playing as a young kid?
As a kid, I was okay. My mum copped grief from other junior club parents.
Right.
And to the point where it used to get physical on the sideline where she'd be attacked. And,
fair income.
Yeah. And then...
did she break anyone's jaw?
Yeah. No, she only broke a nail, that's it. But, and he never entered into my football career. He never tried to give me a lot of advice. Jared Wallace's dad, Craig Wallace's, and I are very good friends, and we were the front rowers in the under-19 Runaway Bay team. We'd gone through the whole season undefeated, and we played Bilambil Jets in the grand final at Seagull Stadium.
Yep.
And we were losing at half-time. I remember we were walking into the dressing sheds, and my dad was waiting outside the dressing sheds, which he never did.
Unusual, right?
And he said to me, if you lose this grand final, it's because of the two front rowers. It's always about the front rowers. And I looked at Wal, and Wal looked at me, and we went out and played like Arthur Beetson in the second half, both of us, and won the game. And he texted me about that today. And, I actually, you know what, Rat, and I don't know whether you were the same, I never struggled with living in the shadow. I didn't. I
liked it.
I used it as a privilege.
I revelled in it. Yeah.
And also, it meant that people were going to watch you far more closely than anyone else. So it sort of put a bit of pressure on the sense that you just got to be at your best.
Yeah.
So... he always taught me make sure you got the firmest handshake in the room, which I've tried to push onto my son as well. And I just want to start celebrating his life now.
It's great. Sorry.
You go.
It's great those anecdotes that our dads teach us. I was the same. Your dad stand up when you shake someone's hand, look them in the eye, firm handshake, all those little things that. That we talked about your dad's beautiful song, the victory song that he sang. You listen to the words of that song, you say they're the words of a bygone era. They don't sing those songs today.
Yep.
But they were different men back then.
Yep.
And I was with a young man the other day, and a guy came in. It was an important person he had to meet. He stayed in his seat, put his hand up to shake his hand. I'm just sitting there thinking, who hasn't taught this kid to stand up and shake someone's hand? The things that our dads taught us that you remember and you pass on.
Yeah.
That's the legacy that they leave us. And it's up to us to carry on that mantle.
Yeah.
He's left a good legacy, Sax, because you're a good bloke. And you've got a wonderful family as well. I love the stories. And I tried to explain some of these last night to Rat. And I can't do them justice. But
I've heard a lot about this kangaroo.
Mate,
the boxing kangaroo.
The story, I can't remember half the stuff you've told me on air and half the stuff you told me off air. But, mate, I want, you want to celebrate your dad's life. He was a tough man on and off the field, as we know. Can you tell us some stories? In particular, can we start with the coat of arms?
Yeah.
Can we? I love this story.
Yeah. So when Hamilton Island first started, Keith Williams was the guy that bought Hamilton Island, and there was a guy on the Gold Coast, the Beattie family, who had all these kangaroos, emus. They had all this wildlife, and Keith Hamilton bought the wildlife to send them up to Hamilton Island on this boat. And so we used to keep our horses there. My sister was a really good horse rider, and anyway. The Beattie said to Dad, "Hey, can you help us come and transport all these animals into a truck so we can take it up to Brisbane to put it on the boat?" And Dad said, "Yeah, no worries." So he went out there and they got a few on, and then the sun started going down and it was getting really dark and there's no light in the back of the truck, and he'd get the kangaroos. And sorry to any of the animal activists out there, but it was a different time.
It was.
And so Dad would get the kangaroos up to the edge of the the truck, and they'd look in the truck and see how dark it was, and they'd try and push back. But as you know, the coat of arms, the reason why they're facing each other, the emu and the kangaroo, is because they don't take a backward step. So they'd sort of and anyway, he'd get them up, and he said, right, I'm going to get up in the truck. You get them up, and as they get in, I'll sort of give them a whack around the chops. And while they're stunned, we'll get them up the back of the truck. And so he did this to 1, to 2, and then all of a sudden, he said, you know when you feel like someone's watching you? He said, has anyone got a torch down there? I just don't know how much room we've got up here. And anyway, someone shone a torch up, and he said, I was standing there, and I was just surrounded by all these big red kangaroos and emus. And he said, all of a sudden, they just attacked me. And he said, I was swinging, and I was throwing rights and lefts and hooks and uppercuts. And he said, I reckon I collected a couple of them actually had to step backwards that night. But I remember as a kid hearing all this commotion late at night. And I remember waking up and walking through the house, and there was this blood stain going all up the middle of the house, like someone had been stabbed. And I walked into the bathroom, and Dad just had scratches and chunks of meat out of his whole body where the emus and kangaroos had beaten him up. He said, you know what, I've played for Australia, I've represented my country, I just got beaten up by the coat of arms.
Good. A few good stories. There's been troubles in his pubs and that along the way, and he's had to sort some stuff out.
Living in the pubs was a great life. You know, I'd never give that back. It's, as I said, it gave you the chance to talk to the bricklayer and the barrister, and in the one afternoon, and you know, every Friday night, all these ladies would always say to me over the years, oh, your dad was always so polite. I'd always go into the pub on a Friday night, and he'd always have a red rose there for me. But what they didn't realise is that Dad had all the tradies in there on a Friday arvo, and the wives and girlfriends would come to pick them up. And of course, he didn't want them to leave because he enjoyed their company so much. He wanted the pub to be full. He used to get the flower lady to come round at 5 o'clock every Friday afternoon with a tray full of roses. So he'd buy them all a rose, which forced them to stay and have 1 or 2 more drinks.
Yeah, nice.
And let their husbands stay. So
cost him $2, made 10.
Yeah. But living in the pubs are great, and you know, he was a non-drinker. He didn't drink at all throughout his career. When he retired in 75, he was 33 years of age, and his first year out of retirement, Carlton United Breweries asked him to go and run a pub in Gladstone. And he had to go and clean up this pub called the Young Australian.
Yeah, we had text messages about this last night.
Yeah.
So he went up there as a non-drinker, and he was still super fit.
Yeah.
And from 1976 all the way through his last days in the pubs, which was only 10 or 11 years ago, there was always someone on a Friday night that would turn up to try and win back the title.
Right.
They'd have a lot under their belt, and they'd say, you know what, where's Sattler? I'm going to go test him out. So, a few of his teammates, the ones that are still around, have reached out. Elwyn Walters, who was a great hooker, won comps with Souths, and then went over the Roosters and won comps with Arthur Beetson in 74, 75. He's still around Orb, and his daughter Kendall, who I get on really well with, rang me yesterday, and he's not travelling too well himself, Orb, and she went to tell Orb that Dad had passed away, and he said, I've lost my whole front row because Lurch O'Neill's gone.
Sats, you used to irk your old man though when you were growing up, because you used to run around the house pretending you're Bobby Mack, weren't you? Bobby McCarthy.
He used to wear his
and he
jerseys.
didn't like that, did he?
Do you used to wear your dad's jerseys?
Mate, I did. Mate, I used to wear my dad's 1980 State of Origin jersey to training as like a 14-year-old, not realising what it was. I don't even know where it is now. How bad's that? Like, I've got a few beauties on the wall, but yeah, I used to wear them and pretend to be him or one of his teammates.
Yeah, he used to hate it. I used to run around and go, it goes from Sattler onto Pittard, onto Sims. It's a long pass out to McCarthy, and McCarthy, there he goes, McCarthy, the bustling second rower. And I'd be like 8 or 9 years of age, and he'd go, how come you're Bobby McCarthy? I played as well,
Mate, we've got to tell Rat this story, and our listeners, of course, too. I know your sister's overseas at the moment, Lisa. Is she okay? Is she good?
Yeah, she's broken her arm, and she can't come back because she's got to get surgery,
right,
which is killing her.
Yeah.
When I rang her yesterday, I was in the room when Dad passed away, and when he took his last breath, and I walked out of the room and rang my wife back straight away, and then I rang my sister who's in Canada, seeing her daughter, and yeah, she's just distraught. You know, we like anyone would be when you can't be there for whatever reason, you know. And so yeah, she's and then I rang my mum, and my mum and dad have been separated for about 12 or 13 years, but they're still very good friends. And I got to say, last night outside of you guys, there's been a lot of people that have put up some great tributes, whether it's social media, on the news outlets, and the guys on NRL 360 last night, Braith and PK and Buzz, and also Brent Reed did a tremendous testimonial as well. And I just want to thank everyone for all the well wishes.
Mate, our pleasure.
It's been great.
There's one more story I want you to tell.
Yeah.
Remember, he was on Kangaroo Tour, and your sister was born.
Yeah, my sister was born on December the 27th, 1967.
This story may offend people too.
Yeah, it will. And they went over the week after the grand final. They'd won the comp in '67, his first year as captain, and then they named the Kangaroo teams back then on the night of the grand final, and they still only did it not so long ago still. And they went away the week later, and they were away for 4.5 months. So they went October, November, December, and came back in the first week of February. And my sister was born on the 27th. Now, his roommates were Noel, Ned Kelly, and Peter Gallagher. And they used to call their room Boys Town. and anyway, Dad never drank. So when Lisa was born, about 3 or 4 days later, what they called not a telegram, is some sort of telegram photo arrived, and it was a photo of my sister. Now, my sister was the ugliest baby ever born.
Right.
Ever born. Like,
It's true.
yeah, ugliest baby ever born. And anyway,
I hope she's not listening.
yeah, she gets sick of me selling the story. And anyway, Dad put this photo on his bedside table, and there was like 3 single beds and bedside table in between. And Noel Ned Kelly came up from having a drink. You know, he loved a beer, and he goes, "What's going on, Sats?" He goes, "Oh, look, Ned, my wife Barb just gave birth to our first daughter, and her name's Lisa. And look, isn't she beautiful?" And Noel Kelly, you know, to try and paint an image, he looked at the photo and he put the photo away further, like, you know, to get your eyesight right. And he pulled it closer. He said, "That is the ugliest effing kid I've ever seen. It's got a bastard head pig on it like its father." And so Peter Gallagher left the room, and Noel and Dad went toe-to-toe for about 10 minutes in the room. They reckon the room was absolutely total.
Oh,
so
mate.
he didn't get to see my sister until the first week of February. By that time, she was pretty then.
Yeah, right.
Mate, we've got Jason Demetrio, the head coach of Souths, coming up next.
He's a great man.
Mate, did not hesitate coming on
No.
tonight, and we'll have a chat to him.
We're going to go down the family this week to
Gonna
Oakhall
ask you
Stadium
that.
to watch Souths and Manly. And I've been talking to Souths today, and they've got a commemorative jersey for this weekend, hopefully, which Dad was famous for his grand final jersey in '70, which had half a rabbit ripped off.
Yep.
So they're going to try and
That's
have
the
half a
missing
rabbit.
jersey.
Yeah, it's still missing. And you know, he's asked to be cremated as well. That was part of his funeral plan. And you know, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we can take some of those ashes and sprinkle them on Redfern Oval and have a memorial there. And he always wanted his ashes to be next to his mum and dad's in his little hometown of Curry,
Yep.
Western Newcastle, which we'll do that. And I asked South Sydney today, we want to put something on his coffin. And Mark Ellison, who's been so good, Mark is the general manager of footy at South, former South legend himself, and he just said, you know, how about the commemorative jersey that we play in this week, that our captain and number 13, which was Dad's number, Cam Murray, how about we drape that jersey over it? And I just couldn't be good enough for the club.
Oh, mate, that's
the
very
rugby league.
moving, Sats, and and mate, so well deserved. And mate, I'm sure when you have that tribute down at Redfern to your old man, there'll be thousands that'll show up to show their respects, and it would be a more fitting place to spread some of your dad's ashes.
Yeah.
Spread some of my dad's on Endeavour Field.
Endeavour Field.
Endeavour Field.
Wow.
Not Shark Park, Endeavour Field.
Great stuff. Thank you, thank you guys. We really
No, mate.
appreciate your support.
I hope you're okay.
And thank you, listeners, very much for all your messages.
There's a lot of love out there for John Sattler, yourself and your family, Sat.
Yep.
So go well, all right?
Thanks, guys.
Good on you, mate.
And by the way, there will be a 1-hour tribute to John Sattler this Saturday on SEN Queensland stations and on SEN 1170 in Sydney. There'll be different times, but it'll be in the lead up to the South Manly game on Saturday night. You'll hear from Craig Coleman, Bobby McCarthy, Jason Demetrio, Ron Coote, Nick Pappas, and of course Sats himself. One thing I do want to play to you before we go to a break, because we want to chat to Jason Demetrio, was Tugger. We had him on last
I
night,
listened to
Craig
it this
Coleman,
morning. He was outstanding.
and his memories of your dad, John.
Where does John Sattler fit into the South Sydney, history and the story? What does he mean to South Sydney?
He is South Sydney. He means everything, and I get goosebumps talking about him because he meant so much to all of us. And he was our leader, our hero, and the legend. And he will never ever be forgotten. And I was very lucky to grow up through that era. And we never had much as kids in Redfern in them days, but we had our footy side. And I remember as a kid at the SCG, I'd be on the hill there, and you first see him coming down the members stairs because South played there quite often. The biggest roar ever would come down when you see Sats leading them down the stairs, the famous stairs of the SCG. And I remember as a kid saying, "I'm going to come down them stairs like Sats one day." And he inspired us, to chase our dreams. And it's just, mate, he's supposed to live forever. Heroes live on forever, and that's what we always thought Sats would. And I'm just so sad.
There you go.
Well, God need another front row up there for Lurch and Arthur Beetson and Chook Raper at lock, and so he's got another one up there for his bench.
You betcha.
Yeah.
We love you, mate. Take care.
Thanks, guys.